Hi students, today let's learn about small intestine. So let's learn about small intestine. What is small intestine? Small intestine is the specialized tubular structure between the stomach and the large intestine that absorbs the nutrition from your food. Small intestine is a tubular structure which connects stomach and large intestine. Okay, we eat food which goes to the throat. From there it comes to the food pipe. Through the food pipe or esophagus it comes to the stomach, and from there it comes to the intestine. The size of the small intestine is approximately 20 to 25 feet in length, otherwise 7 meters long. Let's see the structure of small intestine. The small intestine is divided into 3 parts. The upper initial part is called duodenum, middle part is called jejunum, and the final portion of the small intestine is called ileum. That means small intestine has 3 parts. Number 1, duodenum. Number 2, jejunum. Number 3, ileum. Now let's see duodenum. In humans, the duodenum is a C-shaped hollow joint tube. The small intestine is divided into 3 parts. The first part is duodenum. Duodenum is a C-shaped hollow joint tube, okay, which is 25 to 38 centimeters long, otherwise 10 to 15 inches long it is. Here is the duodenum. Here you know the stomach, and it comes down to the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine is called duodenum. Let's see functions of duodenum. After food mixes with stomach acid, they move into the duodenum where they mix with bile from the gallbladder and digestive juices from the pancreas. The absorption of vitamins, minerals and other nutrients begins in the duodenum. The first function is food which is coming from the stomach to the duodenum. It mixes with the bile where in the duodenum, from where the bile comes from the gallbladder, and digestive juice which is coming from the pancreas. It mixes in the duodenum. Not only that, the absorption of vitamins, minerals and other nutrients begins in the duodenum. These are the 2 functions of duodenum. Hope you can see clearly this diagram. This is stomach, comes down, the intestine begins here, the duodenum, the first part of the intestine. This is duodenum which is in C shape, and here is the pancreas. This is gallbladder. Now from here, this gallbladder, from the gallbladder the bile comes here to the duodenum, and then from pancreas the pancreatic juice comes to the duodenum. See, both the ducts are open into the duodenum. Then here it mixes with the food which is coming. Some amount of digestion is taken place in the stomach, and then it comes to the small intestine, and in the duodenum it mixes with this bile and the pancreatic juice. Now let's learn about bile juice. I have shown you in the diagram that bile juice is released from the gallbladder, but it doesn't produce. Liver produces the bile juice and it is stored in the gallbladder. Gallbladder doesn't produce bile juice. Liver produce bile juice and it is stored in the gallbladder. Whenever it is required, it releases into the duodenum when it is required. Bile juice does not contain any digestive enzyme, but it helps in the digestion of fat by emulsifying them. Bile neutralizes the acidity of the food and makes it alkaline for the action of pancreatic juice. Bile does not digest fat. It only emulsifies the fat and give to the pancreatic juice to digest the fat. And then bile neutralizes the acidity of the food and makes it alkaline for the action of pancreatic juice. We learned about bile juice. Now let's see about pancreatic juice. Pancreas secretes pancreatic juice which play a vital role in digestion. Pancreas secrete pancreatic juice which play a very important role in digestion. Pancreatic juice contain 3 enzymes. Number 1, amylase, 2, trypsin, 3, lipase. Let's learn about these 3 enzymes in detail. Number 1, amylase. Number 2, trypsin. Number 3, lipase. These are the 3 enzymes. Number 1, amylase. In the duodenum, leftover starch, this amylase convert into maltose. Why it is said here leftover starch? Because the digestion begins in the mouth. We already learned that. Okay. So, saliva contain amylase. There we learned that. Saliva contain amylase. This amylase converts starch into maltose in the mouth. After that, the remaining starch, okay, full digestion is not taking place in the mouth, okay, some amount of digestion takes place there, and then it comes to the stomach. There also it is not fully digested and then comes to the duodenum. There it is completes. The digestion of the starch completes there. So that is the reason it is said leftover starch is converted in the duodenum. So in the duodenum, leftover starch, this amylase converts starch into maltose. Amylase converts starch into maltose. Then number 2, trypsin. Trypsin changes proteins into peptones. Then comes third one, lipase. Now we already learned that in the duodenum, the bile emulsify the fats. That fats, lipase acts on this emulsified fats and change them into fatty acids and glycerol. So bile doesn't act on fat or bile doesn't digest fat. It only emulsify and then give it to lipase, which is pancreatic juice. Okay, lipase will digest the fat and it change into fatty acid and glycerol. The first part of the small intestine is duodenum. We learned about it. Now the second part of the small intestine is jejunum. It is roughly about 2.5 meters long. 2.5 meters long. The function of jejunum is to absorb sugars, amino acids and fatty acids. Let's see the last part of the small intestine, that is ileum. I-L-E-U-M, ileum. It is around 3 meters long. The function of the ileum is partially digested food containing partially digested carbohydrates, proteins and fats enter into ileum. The wall of the ileum secretes the intestinal juice called succus entericus. Now, we learned that digestion begins in the mouth. The whole digestion is not taking place in the mouth, some amount, and then comes to the stomach. There also fully digestion is not taking place in the stomach. Some amount is taken place there also. Then comes to the small intestine. The first part of the small intestine, that is duodenum. There some amount of digestion took place, and then the last part, that is ileum, there the digestion process completes. That is why it is said partially digested food containing partially digested carbohydrates, protein and fats enter into ileum. From the duodenum, the incomplete digestion, okay, the full digestion is not taken place there in duodenum. Still some amount of digestion is remaining. That is why the partially digested carbohydrate, protein and fats comes into the ileum. There the whole digestion completes there. Okay. So the wall of the ileum secretes the intestinal juice called succus entericus. These are the two functions of ileum. The intestinal juice contain trypsin, maltase, sucrase, lactase and peptidase. Trypsin changes peptones and peptides into amino acids. Maltase changes maltose into glucose. Sucrase changes sucrose into glucose and fructose. Lactase changes lactose into glucose and galactose. Peptidase changes peptides into amino acids. Digestion completes in the small intestine. Food remains in the small intestine for 3 to 4 hours for digestion and absorption. The inner surface of the small intestine. The inner surface of the small intestine has tiny finger-like projections called villi. It contains blood vessels. The digested food passes through the thin walls of these blood vessels and enters into bloodstream called absorption. The whole process is called absorption. The inner surface of the small intestine has tiny finger-like projections called villi. These villi contain blood vessels. The digested food passes through the thin walls of these blood vessels and enters into the bloodstream called absorption. The size of the villi is 0.5 millimeter long. They are finger-like or flattened in shape. It can increase the size by 20 times. 0.5 millimeter long in size, that can increase 20 times. If you have any doubts, please mention in the comment box. If you like my video, please like, share and subscribe. Press the bell icon to stay tuned.